Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a really close look, a focused look at the intensifying ground offensive in Gaza City. You've definitely seen the headlines flying around. But our mission here, as always, is to go beyond just those headlines. We want to pull back the layers. We'll be using the latest reports coming in, official statements, and some pretty crucial humanitarian warnings. The goal for you, our listener, isn't just, to understand what's happening right now, but really to grasp the deeper, critical implications of it all.
Yes, it's an exceptionally serious situation and definitely intricate. We'll do our best to navigate it thoroughly, making sure it's accessible. So by the end of this deep dive, you should have a clear, contextualized understanding of the facts and, frankly, the challenging dynamics really at play here.
Absolutely. So let's set the scene first. What's the current landscape? Israeli forces have, well, significantly expanded their ground operation. They're pushing deeper, right into what's being described as the heart of Gaza, Gaza City itself. And this isn't just any urban area we're talking about. It's widely recognized as the largest urban center in the Gaza Strip. And critically, Israeli officials are framing it as the last major Hamas stronghold. That phrase, last major stronghold, really seems to underscore the strategic stakes, doesn't it?
It really does. When officials label a place like that, the last major stronghold, it sends a very clear message about strategy. It suggests this phase of the operation is seen as, well, pivotal, almost a culminating point for their military aims. And for Hamas, conversely, it implies their command structure, their operational base, is thought to be concentrated right there in these dense urban zones. You hear the rhetoric from leaders like Prime Minister Netanyahu calling it a powerful operation. And Defense Minister Katz is saying Gaza is burning on social media. That's not just description. No, it sets a tone. High intensity, unwavering commitment to those dual objectives they've stated.
And those dual objectives, they seem central to everything unfolding. The defeat of Hamas, number one, and the safe release of the hostages, number two. But trying to achieve that in such a densely populated city, especially one known to have extensive tunnel networks, that presents huge challenges, both tactical and ethical. So what does an expanded ground operation into a stronghold like this actually mean on the ground, from a military point of view?
Well, it's precisely that urban density and the reported way Hamas embeds itself within civilian areas that makes it so incredibly difficult. An expanded ground operation here likely involves highly specialized tactics, urban combat tactics. We're talking house-to-house fighting, clearing complex buildings, navigating that maze of tunnels people call the Gaza Metro. This type of warfare is inherently slow. It's incredibly dangerous for the soldiers involved. And tragically, it carries an exponentially higher risk for civilians. Because combatants and non-combatants are just so close together, military planners have to deal with the possibility of human shields or people simply being caught in the crossfire. It makes distinguishing between legitimate targets and protected civilians incredibly blurred in the real world.
Yeah, that paints a very, very stark picture of the challenges right there on the ground. But this intense ground operation, it's not happening in a bubble, is it? It's playing out against this backdrop of global politics, big diplomatic moves from key international players. And Washington's position here adds a really interesting layer, I think. We know the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Israel recently, and reports say he told Prime Minister Netanyahu that President Trump's administration supports the ground operation, straight up. But it seems that it's not quite a blank check. Axios reported that support comes with a very clear condition. Washington wants to see it carried out quickly and concluded as soon as possible. That conditional backing, it adds a compelling dynamic, doesn't it?
It certainly does. That's not just a simple endorsement. You could see it as strategic guidance, maybe even a kind of veiled diplomatic pressure. When a major ally like the U.S. attaches a specific timeline, however vague, it sends a powerful signal. To Israel, obviously, but also to the wider world. For Israel, it implies a need to get results efficiently, which could potentially push them towards more decisive tactics, maybe even riskier ones, to meet that sort of unspoken deadline. It also suggests Washington is very aware of the risks, regional escalation, the deepening humanitarian crisis, both, and they're trying to manage those risks by urging a swift end.
Okay, so if the U.S. is pushing for speed, what kind of leverage does that actually give them? Is there a risk maybe that demanding speed, while it sounds practical, could it actually intensify things in the short term or lead to outcomes that don't quite fit the U.S.'s bigger picture goals for stability in the region?
That's a really critical question. The leverage fundamentally comes from the ongoing diplomatic support, the military aid. If this operation drags on indefinitely, that support could come under strain, publicly and behind the scenes. But you're absolutely right to flag the potential paradox. Pushing for speed could inadvertently ramp up the intensity. It might lead to more aggressive actions to meet that perceived time frame. It's a very delicate balancing act. The U.S. is trying to sort of thread a needle here, supporting an ally's security needs while managing the wider geopolitical fallout. This conditional support also sends a subtle message to other regional players about how long Washington expects this phase to last. Maybe encouraging them to prepare for a short, sharp conflict, or maybe to step up their own diplomatic efforts for de-escalation, knowing there's this perceived window.
Right, so this nuanced international support is a constant factor, shaping how things unfold. But while all these military strategies and diplomatic moves are happening, the human cost, the profound human cost, just keeps mounting, tragically. And it seems to be escalating dramatically. We're seeing reports from Palestinian media about relentless bombardments across Gaza City just on Tuesday. At least 40 people killed in a single day, according to those reports. That figure alone really hammers home the immediate, brutal reality for people there.
It's an undeniable reality and, yes, horrifying. The numbers themselves tell a story of immense suffering. We've heard that more than 350,000 residents have already been forced to flee Gaza City, a city that used to be home to nearly 1 million people. They left following Israel's repeated evacuation calls. And this isn't just about losing a house, it's about communities being torn apart, lives completely disrupted. It creates this massive wave of displaced people pouring into areas that are already struggling, exacerbating huge challenges with food, water, sanitation, healthcare. The sheer scale of this displacement, even before you count direct casualties, is a profound humanitarian crisis in itself.
And when we look at the broader casualty numbers, the picture gets even bleaker. Gaza's health authorities are reporting more than 64,900 deaths since this conflict erupted back in October 2023. These aren't just abstract statistics. Each number is a life, a family shattered, a whole population enduring unimaginable trauma. In aid agencies, they're sounding the alarm bells loud and clear, warning that a full-scale assault on Gaza City could trigger, their words, catastrophic civilian casualties, and further deepen the humanitarian crisis. These aren't hypotheticals. These are urgent, dire warnings from people on the ground.
They are incredibly urgent warnings, yes, and they reflect those grim realities of urban warfare we touched on earlier. The immense difficulty, maybe impossibility, of protecting civilians during such intense fighting. It's almost insurmountable in a place like Gaza City. The population density, the city's layout, the reported use of civilian buildings by combatants. It creates an impossible bind for aid delivery, for safe passage. Aid agencies aren't just warning about more deaths. They're talking about the complete collapse of essential services. Hospitals overwhelmed or damaged, clean water scarce, food distribution networks broken. So the humanitarian crisis isn't just deepening, it's spiraling into a catastrophe where basic survival is the daily fight for hundreds of thousands.
It's just a truly heartbreaking dimension to this whole conflict, putting immense pressure, obviously, on the people living there, but also on aid organizations, international bodies trying desperately to respond. The sheer number of people displaced and killed really underscores the gravity and the immense pressure on everyone involved to think about civilian protection, about the consequences of every single military move.
Precisely. And this also brings up critical questions about the long-term effects on the region, on the very fabric of society in Gaza. Beyond the immediate death and displacement, you have these deep psychological scars. You have infrastructural damage that will take decades, maybe generations to rebuild, and a generation of children growing up surrounded by this relentless conflict. So the warnings from aid agencies weren't just about today, they're also a stark look into the future. Predicting these cascading, enduring consequences that will echo for years, it's a situation where military necessity clashes, just head-on, with the undeniable reality of human suffering on a massive scale. It really demands a huge reevaluation of how we approach civilian protection in modern urban conflicts.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've looked at this intense ground offensive in Gaza City. We tried to understand the complex objectives driving it and the nuanced international support it has. And we've also had to confront the severe mounting humanitarian toll, the staggering numbers of casualties, the displacement, those urgent warnings from aid groups. It's clearly a situation that's changing rapidly, incredibly critical, with profound implications for everyone involved, directly and indirectly.
Indeed. And perhaps as you reflect on this, consider that complex interplay we've discussed between the stated military goals, the significant diplomatic pressures from allies like the U.S., and these, frankly, unprecedented humanitarian challenges that come with modern urban warfare. This specific mix of factors in Gaza City really forces us, I think, to consider the practical and ethical implications. What does this mean for how the world responds to future conflicts? especially those fought in densely packed cities. It's a powerful and, I think, enduring lesson in just how multifaceted modern conflict is, and it certainly demands our continued attention.